Okay, it is Friday night. It is 11:01, and that must mean it's time for Explain Yourself, the crowdfunding Kickstarter, Zoop of at some point, whatever, however you're crowdfunding, you can come in and you can explain what your project is. You can explain who you are and how you make comics. I'm Kevin Joseph, and my co-host is?
I'm Will Allred. Hey, everyone.
And we are joined by George O'Connor and Melissa Massey. And thank you guys very much for coming on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Hey, Joey.
Yeah, we actually had a comment for the first time before we even went live. I did not know that was possible, but Joey gave us a what's up before we were even going. And I was like, all right, this is going to be a good night. This is going to be a great night. So
morning, Joey.
The other very cool thing about tonight, and I say very cool, meaning it could be an absolute train wreck. This could be the first broadcast that we do. We do it live. We put it on YouTube and Facebook. But if, and it's a huge if, I can figure out the technology, this will be the first podcast version of Explain Yourself. So George and Melissa, you are on hallowed ground.
Very excited to be here.
Making history.
And if you're listening to this on a podcast and we talk about things you can't see, that is Will and my fault. And we apologize profusely right now. And that's less we're going to say about it because who cares? This is a fun night. What we like to do is a little 30-second intro to your projects. Kind of if somebody was walking past your booth at a con, how would you pull somebody in? George, we're gonna talk about Melissa's in-depth first, so why don't you give us your 30-second intro?
Yes, Melissa deserves all the attention this evening with our 56-minute countdown.
That's right.
So the project I'm launching right now is called Toddlerpocalypse, and it's the hardest part of trying to survive an apocalypse isn't the zombies, the killer robots, or the aliens. It's your goddamn kids. So it's a 6-story anthology that takes all of our favorite sci-fi tropes and as a parent tells you what would really happen in these scenarios.
That is fabulous. I cannot wait to get into it. Melissa, you get to do the patented 30-second pitch, and then literally we're going to go in depth because we don't have a lot of lead time here. We've got how much? We're
down to
55.
Oh gosh, I know. George is panicking now. I'm panicking. I'm in the last hour of my campaign called The Alchemist of Orillia. It is a fantasy action adventure story about a wizard in training, and she's getting sucked in now into having to defend her home. And some other characters are coming in, and it's just a wild, crazy adventure to eventually find the atelier of a legendary alchemist who is the only guy in this world who ever defeated a witch. So they're hoping to find his stuff and find something helpful to help them defeat another witch.
All right, that is beautiful. We already have a comment coming in. Melissa and George, you are both amazing. It says Facebook user, and what we have found that is one of 3 people. That is usually either Pat Shand, Charlie Stickney, or David Byrne. We have no idea why they come in with their names sometimes, and they come in as Facebook users other. But I'm going to take a wild guess, Will, with the next comment. I'm going to guess it might be our good friend Charlie Stickney, because the next comment is kids suck. And I think that it's a front. I think Charlie's kids are probably pretty darn awesome, because if you can joke about them, they must be great. But that feels Charlie to me, doesn't it, Will?
Feels Charlie to me too. So hey, Charlie.
So Melissa, I'm going to pull up your page. We're going to look at it. So we'll look at some of the art. Please, as I pull it up, who is your team that you work with?
It is me and also me.
Oh, you do both. Yeah. By the way,
I'm my own marketer.
I do have to. You know what? You're wrong. It's Andrew Guild, but those dudes are cool too. Andrew. So it's starting to get to be too many people to guess now. But Andrew, welcome, buddy. All right, now I'll pull it up. Well, so you do the and the writing. Wow.
I do it all.
And I have to say that although I'm not in the mastermind at this point, I have been in the mastermind with both the Comics Launch mastermind with both Melissa and George. And
Oh,
it's all been a great experience, but a really great experience was watching both of them work on copy editing some stuff, because they are just so freaking good at it. I'm like, why can't I learn how to do that? So I'm building you up, Melissa and George.
Well, you
So
could
it's-
do it. You just have to do it for 15 years like I have, and however long Melissa's been doing
Or
it.
start in pharma like I did, get your soul broken, learn a lot about prescription drugs that you weren't sure you wanted to know, you know.
So I think it's safe to say that we have the entire team for the
Yes.
Alchemist of Orillia on
Yep.
the show. Awesome.
Yep, all of us.
Listen, I've always been curious, like, I mean, the fact that you do all of this yourself, I mean, just blows me away, so I'm always curious, like, how do you get here? Like the idea comes into your head, and I'm just always curious about your process of how you go through from the idea to the final step.
Yeah, and the idea can kind of start from anywhere. Sometimes it's like, I want to make a character who does this, or I want to do this kind of world, or I want a story that is about this, and I just kind of keep exploring it. And in my head, I always see it as animations, so it's very easy to see it very visually and kind of what those main action points should be, and like what moments should be captured. And then from there, over time, I kind of try to flesh out a story. With this one, it's actually kind of interesting because I started this as a pilot concept. I didn't really have a full series idea for it when I made it. And then when I kickstarted that first issue, people really seemed to like it, and it did well. And people were like, "Oh, when's the next one coming out?" I'm like, "That's a great question."
Yeah.
And I ended up, a friend of mine is trying to become more of a story editor. So we ended up working together to develop a story. And, I had some ideas of things that would be cool to do. Like, I kind of want to go to like this place, or, the Great Library of Alexandria. Like, let's do something with that. And we ended up kind of working together, putting a story together out of all the ideas I had. And then it was writing it out. And then now it's going issue by issue and getting our finished book here.
Is animation, was that how you came out and that's what you want to do, or do you work in animation?
No. When I was a kid, I wasn't into comics because it was all, boys, and there was no girls who did anything in comics. But I really just gravitated towards a lot of cartoon shows. But I was still watching, like Transformers and things like that. So it was still kind of a weird roundabout way that got me to comics. But once I got to comics through a lot of manga, and I started reading things, like Magical Girl series, and then I got into Shonen Jump stuff. I was like, no, this is the way I want to tell stories. Like, this makes sense to me how to do this. And I've just been in here ever since. And yeah, didn't get to go to art school, but I think it all ended up for the best because I got to learn a bunch of different skills, and I was able to get a job in the workforce to support myself. I'm in digital marketing, so then I learned all the marketing side of things, and how to build a website. So I was able to put a webcomic together, back in the early 2000s, and then it was like learning more and more how to market myself, and how to do some email marketing, and then just kind of kept going from there, learning all the different things.
That's beautiful. You built muscles before anybody realized that those were the necessary skills. That's a beautiful way to do it.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun too to see, how the internet could work for you and what you could do with it, and just to see how it's evolved since that time, because I think I first got into it, 2011. So it's been 10 years of seeing the market evolve, and just the way we used to do stuff back then, thinking about now, like, oh, that was really nuts. Like, we used to have calculators next to us, and we would write something, and then we'd have to calculate out the keywords, and it had to be in certain percentages. And I was like, I didn't even do well in math. How did I end up in this?
This is nothing. It's completely off topic. I worked at a bar in New York once, and the owner asked me to write up the website. Like, someone else was building it, but she wanted me to write it up, and I was like, absolutely, I want to be a writer. That's awesome. I spent like 3 days writing everything up, and then her sister came in with everything you're saying, and literally replaced every line I'd written with is a restaurant in New York City, is a high-end restaurant in New York City. The steak here is from a high-end restaurant in New York City. And I told my boss, you take my fucking name off of this.
Oh, honestly, I probably would have done the same thing.
I mean, I can't fault the fact that it worked and it was the algorithm at the time, but I was so mad. I was like, if that's what you're going to do, why did you waste my time? So this is... Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say 33 issues. This is the second issue of the series.
Mhm.
Do you have an outline for how long it will likely be?
I think between 10 and 11. That's what I'm hoping, because I have the whole series outline, and I think if I can stick to and not, kind of meander off or extend things too long, I'm hoping 10 or 11, because I'd like to still be alive when I finish this.
It's a good goal. That is a fabulous goal. Although, if you're going to be alive, then do 80 pages and then kind of last longer.
My last book for my other series was a double issue. It was a 60-page issue, and I'm like, oh, well, this was a nice way to get through a big chunk of story. So maybe I'll. So.
Well, something that George said earlier, kind of about your process. Because we're not, artists. I'm not, definitely. I do everything full script, and I've read some of Kevin's scripts as well. Do you write out a full script, or do you go straight to the thumbnail phase and then script it after? I mean, how kind of does that work?
In the past, it's been a little more disorganized, but I'm trying to kind of rein it in a little bit. So right now I outlined the whole issue. So I'm like, these are the scenes that are going to happen in this issue, and this is what should happen in each one. And then I go into my storyboards and I script as I'm drawing, so that I know, like, oh, I need these things to happen, and this is what they're saying, and this is how they're spread out around across the page, and just kind of making sure that things are moving at the pace that I want them to, and with the right rhythm, and that it's making sense, and also taking those moments where there's breaks in the dialogue to get just those visual cues, and really lay out a fight scene so it's very like dynamic and kind of popping off the page, and I start breaking panels and it gets a little nuts. So it's a very kind of still chaotic, very visual process. So when people are like, oh, can I see your script, or how do you do your script writing? It's like, oh, I don't, kind of.
That's a beautiful way to do it, though, because you can just kind of get to the part that's exciting to you at that moment, and that way you're kind of never in a boring part, because you're drawing this part, you're writing this part, this line of dialogue hits you, so you're always going to the exciting part in that way. Whereas for us, it's kind of like we have to literally go to an exciting scene out of order if we're going to do that, because if we're not, we do have the 3 pages of exposition before we get to the cool fight scene. So
yeah, and it's nice because sometimes I feel like I can't accurately describe what I want in the panel, but I can just draw it, so I can just throw it down. It's like, they're doing this, it's done, and then you get to the next thing. So it definitely keeps things moving nice.
My problem is I can't accurately describe what's in the panel either, but I can't draw it. So it's 30 minutes of, I mean, kind of like this. I mean, do you get it? All right. I once put a family circus cartoon in, because I wanted kind of that dot where the kid walked all around the neighborhood. And I sent it to Ludo, who's in France, who I don't know if he's ever seen Family Circus, but he drew it really well. So I don't know if it helped, hurt, or he just was like, stupid American.
Or you can write like a wall of text and at the end go, I don't know, man, do whatever you think works, because I give up. Let's move to the next panel. You know
what? If that's good enough for Alan Moore, it's good enough for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough. I've worked with a few writers on anthology projects, and their scripts have always been really good, and I've kind of always known what to do with them, but they always put way more panels on the page than I would ever put. So I'm getting scripts with like 9, 10, 11 panels. I'm like, I'm used to put in like 6 or 7. Where am I going to put all these? And they have like 3 speech bubbles in each. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to fit.
Oh my God.
Number one, you're right. That's bad. But number 2, you have a 33-page comic and they have 5 pages to tell their story.
Yeah.
And
also true.
It's probably the 24-page issue number 1 that they want to write, and they're getting it in a 5-page anthology. So sorry, artist, you're just going to have to deal with my epic in a very short.
And that's true. I mean, it's tough for the writer's side too. You know, you're trying to figure out where everything should be, and you're trying to figure out the beats, but in this kind of text format, and it's the first time it's kind of being put on the page, so it can be really tough to judge, you know, how long something should take. I had a series I used to script, and I would script it out the whole thing, and I would be like, oh, this is very long. Like, I don't think I'm very good at this.
Do you have you had the experience of being able to change those layouts if you feel you have a better way to present the visuals?
You know, I've never tried it because I usually respect the person that I'm working with, and it's like, oh, I can't, like, they're deigning to work with me, like I'm not worthy, you know, I can't let them down. I'm just going to take anything they put on the page and make it happen for them, you know.
That's a big mistake. That's a rookie mistake.
We don't know what we're doing, okay?
Do not respect the writer. Draw it the best way, and if we say something, go fix it in post, because
make the letterer fix it, right?
Okay. Yeah. The one project I was on, I was like, well, at least this is the letterer's problem, so I don't have to solve this.
Because Ludo is French, there have been times where there have been a mistranslation, and he's drawn something that is opposite of what we're going for, and those all have to be like, all right, we need to do this, that, or the other thing. But for the most part, you are trained as an artist. I'm not. It's a visual medium. Yep. You can probably tell the story better than me. So if you ever find yourself on an anthology with me, go ahead and draw the page how you want to. I
you have something up your sleeve?
I don't know what the future portends for anybody, but I am always open for good artists to like me and want to work with me. So yeah. Well, we've still got, that is The Alchemist of Orillia, and I'm going to spell it out in case we're on the podcast. Aurilla. You can catch up with both issues. That's what I grabbed, the $30 catch-up tier. I'd love to catch up on series, and you know, so issue 3, I'll just get issue 3, but catch-up is there. I'm going to look at it one more time. And
we're down to we're at 87 backers, 38 minutes to go, and we're sitting at just over the $2,000 line. So now I have to give everyone metal bookmarks. So thank you, everyone. And they're going to be very shiny and awesome. So,
and we are literally $5 from 2,100. So I think we got to get you the $5 first, and then we're going to worry about other things.
Sounds good. I mean, I've been worried about everything this whole time for this campaign. So,
how do you deal with the stress in your campaigns?
Nap sometimes. Eat a lot of carbs.
I like that one.
You know. I've been really into Genshin Impact, so I've been playing some of that, even though I said, no, I got to put it aside. It's campaign time. And then I was like, oh, I'm too stressed out. I need to sit down and play some games here.
No, that's really good advice. If someone hasn't ever crowdfunding, you're thinking about it. It is sort of like a second job, but it is a second job that you need to give yourself hours away from during the day. You have to either, family time, friend time, just you time. It has to be away from it, because if not, after the 14 days, 21 days, 30 days, you're a ghost of yourself.
Right, and I made that mistake the first time around. I was doing my own campaign, and I was in an anthology that was funding at the same time.
Oh wow!
And it was the start of the pandemic, and I just kind of went all in. And now I've learned, like, oh no, you have to give yourself that time, and don't feel bad taking it, because I still feel bad when I have to take those breaks. But it's like you've sent out your posts, you've scheduled your emails, like that. It's okay. Just relax. Take a step back. I'm not always great at it, but I am getting better, which is nice. But I would say, that's the biggest thing, is don't feel bad taking that step away.
No, that's really smart. So let's take a step away from you and take a step towards George.
Yes.
Toddler Apocalypse.
Yes.
Literally, that's all I needed. Will sent me, he said, my buddy George is doing something called Toddler Apocalypse. And I was like, okay, I'm backing, but will he be on the show? Because that was all I needed to know. But let's get a little deeper dive in. We want to talk about all the teams, but is this inspired by any real life children that might have stressed you out in your past?
I mean, probably like yes and no. The seed of the idea came from my friend Diana Porter. We've known each other for 20 years, and while I've been doing the music and comics thing, she has been working her ass off in the New York and Boston acting scene. And she reached out to me, at this point, bunch of years ago, said I got this idea, Toddler Apocalypse, and the idea of being like your kids would never behave in an apocalypse in a way that would let you survive. They just never would. So, while we don't have any specific stories about our kids interacting with zombies, we know full well they will touch the gross things we beg them not to touch.
As we're looking at the cover right now.
That's a fantastic cover.
That is from Alex Cormack, who just, it's just a dream to work with. I mean, that's the thing about this project is like, it's very selfish. I wish I was here with like some romantic notion for you. But Diana came up with this killer idea that we originally thought of as a web series. But then we kind of realized, like, if you're going to spoof these sci-fi things, like there's kind of a level of quality you need to reach to make the spoof work. And we just didn't have the access to make it work. And so, I think Diana thought, well, that was a fun dinner to kick around ideas with. And, and that's that. And I just couldn't let it go because Kevin, just like yourself, she said the name, she said the one sentence pitch. I'm like, that hits so many things. Like, that could pique somebody's interest, whether they're a sci-fi geek, they're a parent, or, a mix of all three, or just like, like pop culture satire. And so this entire time, and especially over the last 2 years, I've been trying to like curate my Twitter feed with just artists that inspire me, that pique that whole like, God, I would love to work with them someday. And just brighten my timeline a little bit. And so it just kind of got to a point where finally my brain made the connection of, hey, you've got this anthology story idea. You've got this burning desire to work with as many amazing artists as possible. What if you married the two? And so I went back to Diana and said, what would you think? And these are the kind of people I would love to work with. And I'm very lucky. She trusted me to take this idea kind of like into the comics realm, into my realm. And, over what really was like a relatively short amount of time, we got a sick freaking lineup. And all of these people, like I said, for years, their stuff would hit my timeline and like, oh man, I'd love to work with them. So it starts off with Alex Cormack, who I've personally known for years. He's a Northeast guy as well. So we've been at cons, we've hung out and all that stuff. I think the other nice thing I like about this project is like, not only are these people talented, they're really nice people, which as I have gotten older is just as important to me as like the quality of work. Is like, is this a good person? Is this someone I want to hang with? And Alex is absolutely one of them. And he's got a wonderful family, a beautiful family. And if you've read and seen his work, he's also got a sick, dark sense of humor. So he was the perfect, like number one out of the gate. And he put that cover together. So as I've reached out to other artists, it felt more real. It felt more professional. And he also drew the story that you were scrolling through. It's called Stop Touching Me. And it's how the alien invasion just goes even worse with your kids. It's that classic story of just asking your kids to do one thing. Just do this one thing for me. Just be cool. be cool for 5 minutes.
Absolutely not.
And their inability to be cool for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wrapped around an alien invasion.
That's great. We met Alex a couple months back for
Dig,
this Dig, the Dig
Mhm.
graphic novel Within the Sink. And just a sweetheart of a guy with like the darkest artistic mind in the world. It's a real crazy thing that somebody that nice can draw the horrendous things that he so happily does draw. So
Yeah.
and this is gorgeous.
If you keep scrolling, there's one panel, go a little further. That one, the mom underneath the bed, that is pure Alex Cormack. And when he showed me that page, it was like, I was just so happy. You know, it was like, I get to do the Alex Cormack thing. So once we had Alex on board, we had the cover, we had a wonderful logo by Andrew Lavello, who did that for us, started reaching out to people. And just, I remembered alphabetically. Everybody's number one in my heart. This is the only way I can figure it out in line. So Clay McCormick is also a Northeast guy, a wrestling guy. So we've hung out, you know, at shows and armories and that type of thing. Also an incredibly talented artist as well. And so he came on board with the story You. That is, excuse me, it is also being colored by Ellie Wright. And again, like a guy that I've hung out with, we did a new a free comic book day signing together. It's like, hey, I'd love to work with this guy. And then he turns in these pages that just are just gorgeous. Kath Lobo is somebody who Blue Car is her story. I have been in love with her artwork for years. There's like an elegance and an energy and an emotion to it that all of her pages jump off the screen. And really what she did for us, like that's just one panel of this 8 pages that she did. What she kind of like reminded us was like her story is flat out gorgeous. And it reminded us like, yeah, we're having fun spoofing the whole like being a parent thing, but there could be like some real heart on sleeve moments on this, you know, that really kind of like peel back, you know, like I said, the spoofing to like the true parental feeling of it all. And this one is about, you know, the killer tidal wave, because there's always a killer tidal wave.
Gotta be.
And running away from it. And, you know, she turned in these pages and we did it a little more Marvel style, where I broke down the pages and the panels with just kind of a direction in the beats, gave them as much running room as possible. And then, you know, if there was like, okay, I know there's going to be 4 bubbles here, so give me enough room. You know, that type of thing. But then we would get the art back, and then Diana and I would write the actual dialogue. We got her back, and we were like, we almost don't have to write anything.
Oh, wow.
Like, we don't have to write a word. So if we don't have to tell the story, what do we do? And it's like, well, you know, as a parent, what are you thinking when the killer tidal wave is like? And the thought was like, the fact is like, when your kid's scared, you'll do anything for them. So we get to kind of like tell that parental truth up against Kath's gorgeous and like, you know, heart-wrenching, heartbreaking story about a family trying to outrun the killer tidal wave.
So this is basically Home Alone with the threat of drowning.
Yeah.
Nice.
From there, again, trying to do this in order as not to, we'll just go here. Jay Sheik, he put together our I'm Ready. And if you're a parent, you know, getting out the door quickly. And when you have told your kids, we need to get out the door quickly, here's your half-hour heads up that we need to get out the door quickly. You will not get out the door quickly.
You're giving me parents' traumatic stress disorder.
Exactly.
This one hurts, man. I don't like this one.
And you know, again, we got to kind of put our hearts on the sleeve where that moment where you've used up all your spoons and you immediately say something to your child you regret. You know, and the heartbreak of watching your kid's heart break off of something you did.
Uh-huh.
Wrapped up in the, the nuclear fallout, got to get on the last bus to the underground bunker. From there, Jordi Perez is doing our language story. This is kind of our Mad Max wasteland, our last group of survivors being chased by the wasteland warriors. And like, I'm not sure how to tell. Well, it's all right in there. That the kids are always listening and have opinions, even in the worst case of scenarios. And then My Turn by Fernando Pinto is sibling rivalries just don't care about robot apocalypses. They just don't. And again, Fernando, I mean, all of these people, I mean, I'm just still like gobsmacked that we got to work with them. And what was very cool, and like Kevin, just hearing you talk about it, and maybe you all know this, like you have the idea and you're really excited about it, but you're kind of scared to like tell other people about the idea because what if nobody else thinks it's kind of cool?
Mm-hmm.
And I think MJ and Kev and Will, you might have been in the mastermind where I first said, this might be the next thing I do. And, the reaction to that is like, oh, well, maybe there is something there. And then reaching out to these artists, which, again, is asking 6 people out to the prom. And all of the fear and anxiety that comes to that. And you send it out there and then their reactions to it, their enthusiasm for the idea. We let everybody pick their own story.
Okay.
So again, to try and maximize, like, let's have fun with this. Like making comics is hard. It flat out is hard.
When you say you let everybody pick their story, did you have 12 ideas and they picked the 6 artists picked the 6 they wanted, or did you have 6 and it was kind of like answer quick?
We had 8. We had 8 kind of in the 3-sentence write-up form. And then, it was a little first come, first serve, but nobody bumped into anybody. So, I mean, that's kind of like a wonderful, just little kismet right there, and the idea being, like I said, this stuff is hard. In the best case scenarios, it's hard. So how can I make this as enjoyable for everybody as possible? And so that's why I was like, hey, let me let these people pick the story they want to tell, because it'll mean more for them. Hopefully it'll be, more fun for them. And then, selfishly, everything gets better because, you're giving, the people you're working with the maximum opportunity to enjoy the process, because that's all we can control.
Yeah, a passionate artist is always the most important aspect. And it's not necessarily passion always. A 9 in passion and a 7 in skill is better than a 7 in passion and a 9 in skill. In my opinion.
You can see it on the page. You can 100% see it on the page.
Who do you have lettering? Do you have a single letterer for the every story? Awesome.
Justin Birch is our thread through all of them. And I've seen his work before. Going back to Alex Cormick, he and Rich Duick have done a bunch of stuff. Okay. With Justin, Road of Bones, Sea of Sorrows. And
those are all right.
Yeah, they're all right. They did okay. But again, Justin has a lot of this was just like the right people found this project. And Justin, I believe has a kid of his own. And you look at the Road of Bones and Sea of Sorrows, he knows how to do letter or horror lettering, right? He knows how to take his talent into this realm. And if that's what we're spoofing, then, bringing that expert in to do that thing worked out perfectly. And what was great was once we started getting his letters back, like the jokes hit harder.
Beautiful.
The heart on sleeve moments, the gut punches hit harder. Everybody elevated this book, but then to see how the jokes played on the page by his choice of lettering, it was that up close magic that you're like, oh, I'm working with an expert here.
Oh yeah, we are very much lettering fans here. Letterers don't get the respect I think that they deserve, because that's really comics being the invisible art. That's the invisible part of the invisible art that can make or break a book. It really can.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, okay. Should I read this?
I'll read it for you.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, it came in as Facebook user, and I don't know if that's Andrew or another person, so we can't give you credit. But just wanted to say I knew of Toddler Apocalypse, but I second, hey, Kevin's statement. Maybe that's why I wanted to read it. Listening to a creator get so animated and passionate about their project just ramps up the interest, and love these live streams for bringing that to be. It is our pleasure to do these live streams because George and Melissa, I had not met you until tonight. So this is my cake. The icing is other people getting to know you. So it's Shawnee Myers. Shawnee, oh man. The greatest.
Oh, thank you.
And to be honest, George has been passionate about this from the beginning in that mastermind, and it was I kind of remember that one, and you were really, you didn't really want to talk about it, but then you did, and it was like this, wave of relief was over, because we all kind of loved it, and you're like, well, why have you waited so long, dummy.
As you two are very probably sick of hearing me say, because our brains are stupid.
That's right.
The lizard brain strikes again.
The dumbass lizard brain. But yeah, one of the nice things, one of the rewarding things about this, and I think it's working with, right now we're like 12 other people helping bring this about. I want to make sure I mentioned Ellie Wright is coloring the stories. We also have Leslie Atlansky, Andrew Crossley, and Matthew Nickerson are helping color this as well. Okay. And again, these are people whose work just comes across my screen, and I'm like, that just looks good. Recently Ellie Wright, she did, like I said, she did Clay's story. And seeing her work, it I couldn't respond to her email for about 5 minutes because I just kept shaking my head and laughing. I was like, my name's on this book, and really all I want to do is look at the pretty pictures.
That's something that Melissa just,
you don't get that, Melissa.
She doesn't get the feeling. She doesn't get art emails. We do.
No, I just have to live with what I've put on a page. Like, yep, I drew this.
What is the greatest present you've gotten during the holidays? And then you get that throughout an entire comic book over and over and over again. Yeah. I want to take one moment and interrupt and explain what a mastermind is, because it's come up and people might not realize. This is specifically within the Tyler James Comics launch community, which if you are a comic creator who wants to crowdfund, you must listen to the first about 12 to 15 podcasts of the Comics Launch podcast. You must. If you don't do that, you're not doing Kickstarter right. I also recommend looking into the Comics Launch Pro community, where there are many more things you can learn. That is you pay to get into it. It is a good value. I can't say you have to pay that. But then there's a thing called a mastermind, where Tyler gets about 4 to 8 people, I think it's usually 6, meet up for about an hour or two, and everybody just kind of says, on this week, this is the problem that I'm having this week, and everybody kind of gives advice, wisdom, asks questions. I say that because you don't need to be a comic creator to create your own mastermind. Whatever you're doing, if you're doing it, don't do it alone. Find 6 people that are on your step of the ladder, not 3 steps above, not 3 steps below, whatever step you're on. Find people who are doing what you're doing and climb the ladder with them. It is so much easier. to have George, you said brains are stupid, but 6 brains together are all of a sudden get kind of smart. So that's what they're saying when they say mastermind. And if whatever you're doing, find 5 to 10 like-minded people on the journey and go with them on it.
Yeah, one of the things that I think Tyler has said multiple times, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with someone.
Shawnee Myers says that she's on George's newsletter, which is a lot of fun and definitely shows how much he loves what he does. So
I agree with that. I'm also on George's newsletter, and I always love reading it and seeing.
Thank you, everybody.
The Commerce Loss community, and especially the mastermind, has really been indispensable for me. I mean, it's how I met Will and George, and now through you guys, I'm meeting Kevin. And I did it alone for so long and just didn't have the right support group to do it. And I didn't think I could get here at all. And now I am here, and it's incredible. And it was because I had all these great people around me, and now I'm still creating new stuff, and there's more even great people showing up. And yeah, if you're in comics, it's definitely an indispensable resource, and definitely for anything you're doing, find like Kevin and Will, and I'm sure George will agree too, find some people, get together, and just start jamming, and you'll be amazed at what you'll come up with.
Well, and this is for George. I was in the Comics Experience program for a while, the Creators Forum. And that's a wonderful thing. I know you had Charlie Spot come out from Comics Experience Publishing not too long ago, right?
First issue came out end of December, and if everything goes right, the second issue will be coming out February 9th.
Nice. The paper shortage is real.
The boats off of Long Beach are real. Yeah.
It's an interesting time to be making comics, whether it's direct market or Kickstarter. And I noticed, Melissa, you even put that on your page. You were like, I've always done it on time, but this time I'm adding a lot of months to delivery because
let's just put that padding in there, just in case. There's a lot of places boats can be now. I've learned, they're in Lake Michigan, they're off in California, they're off in New York, they're all over. So.
I wasn't too afraid of the paper shortage until I heard that Image might not be able to deliver comics. Yeah, and I was like,
that's
okay, all right,
yeah.
This might
that company. I get it now.
This might be rough.
No.
Joey Galvez says, and now we're going to get you on all of our podcasts. So yes, so look for the Geek Collective, their round of podcasts, so that we don't get you on in the last 14 minutes.
I've been thinking about it. I'm like, oh, geez.
We are getting there. We are getting there. Joey says, hear me out. We're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to mention that 3-letter acronym, Joey. Shame on you.
So not fucking today.
Yeah.
So Melissa, headwise, like I said, you've got 14 minutes for the campaign, and then I'm assuming you're going to take a coma for a little bit and recover.
I'm going to eat some snacks first and then coma.
You deserve snacks.
You can't hibernate without the gorging first.
I would recommend Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity for mindless, just killing crap. It's pretty fun.
That sounds fantastic.
Something I'm really cognizant about right now is the well of creative energy, and being able to pull on that to make the thing. So when you are running it soup to nuts, how much time do you need to breathe in before you're ready to even start thinking about number 3, or is that already on your table?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. During the campaign, I get more hype for the series. So actually, before the campaign ran, I was outlining future issues, like let's get ahead of this, let's try to keep this moving. And now during the campaign, I've really been thinking about issue 3, and I even have like some joke scenes written out and like some interactions with the characters. I'm like thinking about all those little nuancy things. I'm like, I'm supposed to go and do my other series, but I might just keep doing this one. So we're gonna see.
Do you think it's because you're so immersed with it? You're always thinking about it, so it's kind of opening that the right side of your brain is opening the left side, or whichever the actual way it is.
Right. Yeah. I think that's definitely a part of it. You're thinking about it all the time, and I'm so just entrenched in it and thinking about, all right, what else can I talk about with this book and what's happening? And then that's just getting me think of, what's coming down the line, and you're definitely going to want to bag because better stuff is happening in the next book. And one thing I've been really trying to get across is that, you're funding this book, but it also kind of trickles down to the next books down the line, that they become more and more possible. And George, for you, because this is a kind of a one-shot anthology, where does it kind of put you in your headspace? What are you thinking of the next project, or doing a sequel to this? Or
that's kind of why I was asking, because I've been talking with a couple friends, Diana, the co-writer, co-creator of this being one of them. The idea of like getting the next thing going, I don't have it right now. Now part of that, and I want to set the stage, because I said this to a friend, like kind of like bitching, and then he looked at me in that way that makes you think, oh, right. So Charlie Spot, it's a 4-issue series. So if everything goes right, 2, 3, 4, February, March, April. So that's something, I need to promote, and I want to promote. I love this series. I'm so glad that it's getting out into the world, and it deserves to be in front of as many eyeballs as possible. So, promoting that and keeping the eye on the distribution for that takes up part of my brain. Mm-hmm. This campaign runs through the end. This campaign is going to be part of my life, if everything goes right, through July, right? Mm-hmm. From funding it to making sure it prints right, to packing and getting it out. Mm-hmm. I'm also a musician, and I've got 2 music projects going on right now.
Yeah, you said you were going to play one of those for us, right?
Yes, please.
Hey,
George concert.
It's our first podcast. If we had live
do
music,
for the podcast, George.
I'll send you. I mean, we can hurt people's ears if you want.
Yes.
But, so the band, we haven't, for a year and a half, 2 years, we haven't had any place to play. So we've been working on new material. So we want to record that EP, a 5-song EP starting in May. I've also got another project that I'm working on with a friend of mine that we're working on, a 9-song EP. Wow. And that, realistically, all this stuff will take me through fall. Right. So what my mental hurdle I've been working on right now is like, that's 4 projects that I'm genuinely, like, romantically in love with, that I want to, I want to see out there because I want to see it out there. Mm-hmm. Maybe 4 is enough. And, the idea of adding something else out of, like, I don't know, Catholic guilt or like something like that, or like I'm supposed to have something else in the pipeline.
Right.
Like I said, the idea of like, all right, I got to reach out to an artist, and and a friend of mine brought it in really, kind of helped me see it. John Cleese has a wonderful.
You're friends with John Cleese?
I am. Okay. Sir John, he lets me call him. But he's got a wonderful video out there, him talking about creativity. And it kind of boils down to, there are moments where you need to breathe in. That's when you're reading, you're watching, you're finding inspiration, you're paying attention. You're not, because then eventually you will breathe out. And when you breathe out, that's when you create. And when my friend, threw this video back in my face, I'm like, oh, not only am I breathing out, I'm breathing out, 4 windpipes.
Right.
So, maybe this is the time, maybe it's okay to not have something on the horizon. Do I have a folder full of ideas? Of course. Do I have notes on my phone that I'm throwing down there at 12:30, right as I'm about to fall asleep? And I know if I don't write it down, I will forget it.
Right.
Absolutely. Do I feel like I'm ready to breathe out on all that stuff? Probably not.
Yeah.
The flip side of that coin, I've got 2 comics I fucking love and I believe in, that were a joy to put together, that I think show not only it's as good as I can make them right now, with collaborators that I'm just still kind of like in awe of who I get to work with. They're easy to talk about because they're freaking gorgeous, and they were wonderful projects to put together. And I've got 2 musical projects that have been percolating in my head. I've been sitting on in my studio on my computer over there for years, and it's like it's time to get them out. And just like I said, it's very weird to be just like, all right, okay, that's enough.
No, but that's smart. Knowing when to turn the faucet off before you run out of water is extraordinarily prescient of you. So I think it's really a good point. And sometimes I have not done that well in my past, and I think that's really a great thing. Joey says promoting gets exhausting.
It can.
Any of this, if it's all you're doing, gets exhausting. But the promoting gets exhausting because you also have a little bit of guilt that you're promoting. Russell Nohelty, though, has the best advice with that. And it goes to what George. If you love what you're doing, you love what you're putting out in the world, aren't you doing a disservice to people to not tell them about it?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, Russell is great for those charging up the hill thoughts and quotes and stuff like that. And flat out, he and bringing it back to Tyler James, those 2 guys have been living in my head for the last couple months, because I joke about the whole Catholic guilt thing, but a bit of that imposter syndrome. We've all kind of like talked about this on our own, but the idea of like, oh, I'm going to annoy people if I mention my thing on Twitter, on Facebook, and all this stuff. But then, these guys will throw facts in your face of like, a tweet has a lifespan of whatever, I don't know what it is. Let's just call it 17 minutes. The fact, you think you're posting all the time. The fact is nobody saw it.
Yeah.
And if you doubled the amount that you tweeted, nobody would see it. Right. So get over that.
There's a story that Dave Kellett told after one of his campaigns, and it was he was posting all the time. He was sending out all the emails. He was actually getting tired of posting. He's like, oh, there's no way. Like, I must be annoying my audience. And not even the day after his campaign ended, someone emailed him, oh, I didn't know you were doing a campaign. So I always think of that too. Like, there's always going to be someone who hasn't heard about it. So just keep throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Now, Melissa, you mentioned another series that you're doing. That's your Black Ball series, right?
That's my 1920s magical murder mystery tale.
Oh, nice.
It's about a girl. Her sister's murdered, and then she finds this really strange suitcase in her room, and she's going through it. And in this world, there's magic, but magic has been banned in Prohibition. And this is a magic making kit. So, now the main character, she's trying to figure out, all right, what was going on here? Because she lives in a non-magical household. And it's this idea of, you have the non-magical, the practical scientists, and then you have the arcane scientists, and they're kind of going against each other. And she's like, I just want to figure out why my sister was murdered and go home. Like, I don't want to deal with this. And then, of course, she gets a sidekick of one of those, typical 1920s schmoozer dudes. He's like, oh, no, we're going to go on an adventure. And he's taking her around. So that's my other series that will be going into issue number 4. So we're about halfway through that story, and I'm very excited to see where that's going to go next.
I did pull up. I pulled it up because we have 3 minutes left, and 2 backers came in and blew you past 2,100. So Will and I take all credit for backer number 88 and 89.
Absolutely, that's going to be a footnote in the book. Like whoever this was.
This is the Explain Yourself bump.
So yeah, I'm of course very excited for more Alchemist of Orillia. You know, I was working on Black Ball, and I just really missed doing the fantasy adventure story, because murder mysteries are fun and all, and it's always, you know, gangsters and guns, and you know, who doesn't love that? But I was just missing it. So being able to come back and do this series at the same time, you know, was just filling that itch I was missing to go out and just go on an adventure. And I kind of went wild, not too wild with the world building, but the world building I've done for this world I'm really proud of it. It's just this really cool idea of a world where you're missing half of your history because there was a war between two different groups of gods, and the ones who were in charge lost, and the new ones came in. They're like, we don't like this, and they just kind of wiped the world clean. Everyone had to start over, and that's kind of why this the idea for that came from the idea of they're looking for this alchemist guy, and like where his office was in ancient times, and like why can't they find it? Are they just dumb? Like, we know where ancient Egypt was today. And that gave me the idea of, oh, you know, this thing happened, this big event, and it kind of reset everything. So now they're trying to figure out where can we find like some documents that could tell us where this country was. And so this is all kind of building around that. So there's a little mystery, like National Treasure-ish, finding the documents, lining up the lines, you know, figuring out where things could have been. And
did you draw the wig as bad as Nick Cage's wig in that movie?
Absolutely. You know, you gotta have a bad wig. Actually, I was looking it up how to write, and gotta have a bad wig. I'm like, all right, check that off.
So, am I the only one whose heart skips a beat when it goes from days to hours?
Yes.
And then hours to minutes, and then minutes to now seconds?
Seconds.
I don't think I've ever seen the seconds
No.
before. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm like, what is this? What's happening?
Oh. I don't know what happened. My screen went from 76 seconds to you are done.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for everyone for being here to count this down with me.
No, that's so much fun.
And you know, I love hanging out with George and Will, and to meet Kevin was so cool. Like, you're kind of a legend. I don't know if you knew that.
I tell him that all the time. Don't let him.
I mean, that's just
he doesn't know.
that's just the payments I send Will, to be honest. But
money well spent.
Yeah, I mean, we're all legends in this chat. Let's be honest.
Yes. Shawnee Meyer says congrats. Joey says congrats.
Thank you, everyone.
No, I have to ask, when is that comic coming back for issue 2 on Kickstarter? Because I want to be your first backer. That is such a cool concept. And can you do us a favor and reach out before, so that you're not on here in the last hour, so that maybe the Explain Yourself bump can be more
Will
than 2
didn't
people?
tell me he had a podcast or a show that he was doing.
Well, you know, as Joey says, word of mouth still beats any other kind of promo. We're not professionals.
We don't know what we're doing.
Good at this. We're having fun and trying to get better.
The fun is the most important part. So. And then I got to be on the show with George, which is the coolest thing, because George is one of my favorite people.
It's one of the things I'm like so grateful about this comics journey is the people that I have been able to meet and connect with, especially kind of like the older you get.
Will and I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. You know, it's one of those like little things, like the artists, the people who want to create things, it kind of gets thinned out the older you get for whatever reason. And you know, I can remember being 18 years old, you know, in my first band, and that, you know, those 4 other guys and everything were everything, you know. And then, like I said, as you get older, not as many people are around for whatever reason. And you do, you know, I know I have felt kind of like, well, if I'm the last one standing, what's wrong with me? You know? And so being able to meet people, you know, like Will, like Melissa, Kevin, you know, like yourself, and, you know, all these other people, and being able to connect with them, talk with them, and say like, oh, you know, that no, there are other people who kind of have that, you know, that mentality, that drive for whatever, to like, look, I am a creator, no matter how, gray the hair gets, no matter how tall my son keeps getting, I'm a creator, and until the hands fall off, I'm going to, because that's just, for me, that's what makes it kind of like worth it all.
Yeah.
And so being able to connect with other people, other creators like that, to know like you're not insane. A lot of, and Kev, you're talking about, getting together, in this mastermind, whether it's, in the thing we're doing, or just finding other people and doing it on your own. Like, so much of this stuff is psychological, and you don't realize it. You think it's you. And then you're saying like, hey, does anybody else feel like this? And there's 7 other people nodding their head, that it's a universal thing. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with us. It just is. Being able to connect with people like that, and that reassurance and that energy has been tremendous. So, being able to meet Melissa, being able to, hang out with Will, and what can be kind of like very like, look, here's my heart. I'm going to spill every ounce of fear and honesty onto you, and it's going to be received and heard, and it's, you're going to be honestly helped. Like, it's not toxic positivity. Right. It has kept me afloat more than like, and I try and tell everybody, again, I am at that age where I was like, I need people to know when, they've helped me, when they've done something for me, I want them to know. And even then I'm like, I'm not even scratching the surface for the amount of, like I said, just support that I've needed. And, and the timing of it, oh my Lord, I needed that right now. I didn't know how much I needed it.
Talk me down, man. Talk me down.
So it's, I'm excited to be able to count down Melissa's, campaign, just as much, because again, just, we need more positive people in the world, and it's wonderful to meet and hang out with them and get to know them, on a little bit, and then get to see them create their art. And Melissa, kind of like you were talking about, people that back these campaigns, they're helping push the ball, push the snowball down the hill. The first Kickstarter I did was 10 or 11 years ago. Like it was just starting to spike. It hadn't become Kickstarter yet, but there was momentum. So we were still early. For the first series I did, we needed help getting the second issue together. And after we were able to successfully do that, the series was able to just continue on its own, because, that campaign, those backers had helped keep that ball rolling. So again, I'm psyched that people are going to get to read 1 and 2, but I'm even more excited that they are helping, Melissa, they're giving you, whether it's the financial support or just the emotional support, that we're going to get more from you, because that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now, with the Kickstarter community too, like, there's so many great comics going on around, and it's been like so cool to, either back a lot of these projects, or when I haven't been able to back, just tell people about, like, you got to check this out. It's so cool. And, to have that community around you, and, you do it for other people, and then, people do it for you. It's just like this awesome, amazing feeling. And then all these people come out and they give you money, and they're like, I'll give you money for this. It's like, oh wait, no, don't give me money. Okay. And then they just keep giving you money to read your stuff. But it's a really great way. Like, I just want people to realize, like, how great a community this is, and what this means to us, and what it means for each other too. I love seeing my friends' projects fund, and I would almost work harder to get their campaigns to fund than my own in some ways, because I'm just so, I just want to be there for my fellow creators so much. And then, then everyone comes out of the woodwork when I'm doing a campaign. I'm like, oh, hi everyone.
I have a term in my head for this, and I call it greedy giving.
Mhm.
And like we do all this for each other, and it always tends to come back.
Mhm.
I want to give in a way that isn't greedy, but I mean it's also helpful. Like I hadn't met you guys until tonight. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I hope that our paths are going to cross a lot more in the future.
Yeah, I hope
And
so.
that's just like, yeah, you came on the show. You did us a favor by coming on. Hopefully we helped a couple people hear about the project. But now I have 2 more artists in this community that I have a relationship with, and that's fabulous for me. So greedy giving, make it your mantra. Melissa, I know that you are not home. I know that you gave us an hour, and we are 6 minutes over that. So I am going to kick you out.
All right. I mean, I'm
Go
having
snack.
fun.
Go snack.
It
We
is
had-
time for a snack.
We had a blast, but I don't want you to feel like you have to stay. George, you can hang with us. Will and I are gonna talk about the projects that have been on the show the last 2 weeks that are still live, and we're gonna do that for you next week. Melissa, we probably won't mention your campaign.
That's
So,
okay. We've talked
it's-
about it enough.
yes.
Like people are done.
It's also okay because at this point we're tired, and this is when the show isn't always the best. But we
Well,
try.
maybe it is. This is when it's the best.
Yes,
I don't know.
we try hard and we mean well. Melissa, it was very nice to meet you.
It
Yep.
was
Hey,
very nice to
congratulations.
meet you. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a real blast, and I hope to come on again and hang out with you again real soon. And George, I'm going to be following your campaign with great interest and fervor. So best of luck to you through the whole thing. And it was
Thank you.
wonderful also meeting Shawnee Myers. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
She's fabulous.
I'll see you soon, MJ. Love you, baby.
Love you. Bye.
We did get a little amazing news. Will, did you see this in the comment? Blake Morgan of the Blake Buzz podcast is doing his year in top 11, 12 list. And apparently, where is it? Joey put it up and it didn't fit when we were talking about. Apparently I can't find it because I'm not so good at this. I will paraphrase. So apparently, Will, you and I won an award for best community outreach for this podcast.
awesome.
Wonderful. Congrats.
So I think it's just because George and Melissa came on. I think
I
you
think
guys,
so too.
we got the George and Melissa bump. So thank you so much.
It's that lucky George energy. He just brings it wherever he goes.
That's neat, but meeting people and talking about comics is really what's the cake. So
You were talking about that energy coming around, right?
Yeah.
So if, you build this podcast and you build this conversation around your love for the medium and love for the creators, and lo and behold, what happens?
Mhm. There you go.
Greedy giving. Giving.
Hey, Will, for the next month, your check is got to go to Blake. So
Okay, gotcha.
just be careful. You got to go back to Subway for lunch this month.
Okay, yeah, or Taco Bell. It'll be Taco Bell. Gotcha.
Wait, so what about the check I send you guys? Where do I send that to?
Wait,
No,
you
can
send
send
that
that
to
to
Jack?
Will because I
I'm just
usually
gonna need it for lunch. I get.
I actually was listening to Blake's podcast and Fellhound was on it, and they were saying that they have a joke that there's one $20 bill that all of us comic creators just pass around on the Kickstarter. So it's sort of like that.
I believe there's one Gemini mailer. that is
I have a
being
stack of them
transferred
right
around.
here.
I'll be honest. I have 2 Gemini mailers. I think they're both from Rob Multari because I've been saving them, and 2
Our
lucky
buddy Rob.
backers are gonna get some
I
boxes touched by Rob.
His book Snowpaw. It arrived this week for me as well, and I got real excited telling my wife, like, He put it in a bag. There's no sticker on it. There's no label on it.
Oh, actually,
This is so deep geek shit right here.
Yeah.
This is like this is beyond like talking about Kickstarter.
I told my readers, and I said, "Hey, I've got, I try to recycle. I try to be environmentally conscious, and I've got this stack of Gemini mailers that are perfectly fine. Does it matter if I reuse Gemini mailers?" Nobody said no. They said no. A lot of them said no. Hey, recycle, reuse, and some of them just said, "I don't care, man. Just make sure it gets to me in good shape." I'm like, rock on.
Yes.
I'm reusing mailers. So if you guys send me Gemini mailers, they're probably going to go back out into the world.
Gemini stock goes down by 8% this year as we all figure this out.
Yeah.
Should we start doing that whole "Where's George" thing?
We probably
You put the little serial number on the Gemini mailer and then start logging where it's gone.
Like the old library books that
Yes.
used to have the person's name.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, people must be hella confused when they get mine because I organize my tiers and I put letters on all the boxes. Like this is the A tier, so this is so people are getting these boxes with these random letters on them. Like it's a B. What does it mean though?
All of my notes are the backer number and then their name, and I always wonder if anybody. Why am I 87? What is this? But it's just like the easiest way to find you and everything is by your the number's easier than the name. So, I always wonder if that comes out of nowhere for people. But no one's asked. So either they get it or they do not care. I'm not sure which.
They're excited. It's Kickstarter day. They're just ripping open that package to get the thing.
Yeah, it's like Christmas, but it's comics.
Yeah.
That's right.
And back so many, it's like it's Christmas, but you're like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like,
Who
I don't know.
in Kansas? What?
Yeah. Oh, when you get them from like Italy or Australia, I don't get them as much now that shipping's gone so high, but sometimes they come through and you're like, oh man, this just has a pretty lady on it. That's probably from Europe. So the projects that are still running, we had Travis Gibbs' Granite State Punk, which is a one-shot. It's about a gentleman who gets, well, I don't know if he's a gentleman because he gets out of jail. He comes home to his family home and basically finds himself in an occult mystery about a mountain with a man's face on it, which is apparently a real place you go to in New Hampshire. Is that right? Well,
yeah, I think it was New Hampshire. Yeah.
Okay. It was, and it fell. It fell off.
And it did fall.
Yeah.
So I think that Travis will tell us why it fell in this comic.
Cool.
I don't know how many days because I don't have it pulled up.
I've got it. It ends on February 17th, so it's got almost
2 weeks ish. Yeah,
2.5 weeks.
So you can find that Granite State Punk issue 1. You can search Travis Gibb. We also have Sacrimony 1 through 3 with from Mata. She was on last week. Sacrimony is right up my alley. Angels, demons, dead gods coming back to life, dead kids coming back to life with angel wings, and just this very unique and original fantasy epic that Mata writes and draws, just like Melissa. So we've had 2 writer artists in the last 2 weeks. So I don't know how you do it, but I respect the hell out of it. Sacrimony with an A, so Sacrimony, and you can catch up with the first 3 issues on that one as well.
Yep.
And we have
Lady Mayhem.
Oh, okay. I did the wrong one.
Did you have that one next, or what did you have next? Sorry.
Lady Mayhem is fine. You go for it.
All right. It is a 90s revenge.
90s comic style revenge.
90s comic revenge, over the top, violent.
Yeah.
Awesome little work of genius.
Of mayhem. A writer and artist who are engaged to be married. The artist wanted to draw a 90s bloody, violent romp, and his fiance said, "Sure, let's do it." And just think of the biggest gun you've ever seen, put it on steroids, and that's Lady Mayhem. So it just sounds like bloody and just fun.
I got a chance to be across from Carl and Jenna at Heroes Con one year, and they're just wonderful people.
Oh, cool.
So, again, kind of going back to like, not only talent, but also looking for people who are just good people.
Mm-hmm.
That's them. So I'm back in this one as well. I'm very excited for it. And again, Carl and Jenna are just wonderful, wonderful people, along with being super talented.
That's super cool. Rob Anderson was on with his kids' book, Cat Dad and Supermom. This is issue 2. You can get both issues in it. It's about a little kid who kind of dreams of being of superheroes. His superheroes are his mom and dad. And sort of the dreams are morals that he learns that help him with his day-to-day issues. The first issue is about dealing with some other kids that are mean to the cafeteria lunch lady. And he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want to be mean to her, but he doesn't want to tell. And it's kind of a thing about, I'd say kindergarten, first grade type ethics. And the second issue is about Rob takes his son, his actual son, who kind of is the inspiration for it, to conventions. And it's Jax, the character, meets an actor who might not be the nicest person to a little kid at a convention. And throughout the course of the story, Rob, the Cat Dad superhero, introduces him to the actual writer of the comic. So he didn't get a good experience with the actor from the TV show, but the author and artist gives the kid a good. So kind of like talked about, how you deal with people being jerks to you sometimes, and also that writers are pretty darn important. So yeah, I like that part.
I was gonna say the real moral is people who make comics are
yes,
exactly.
it's in there. Yes,
Excellent.
and Brian Hawkins' slasher set on a college theater troupe. They are doing a Shakespearean play. Help me, Will. You're my
Midsummer
Shakespeare.
Night's Dream.
Yes. And it's going to be tough when their lead actress gets brutally murdered a week before the play. And
Can I
basically,
say it? Can I say it?
Yeah,
let me
you can
say it. Puck Mass Killer. I just
Puck
like
Mass
saying
Killer.
it. Puck Mass Killer.
and everybody's a suspect. And issues 1 and 2 are out. It's a 3-act limited series, he calls it. So the second act is issue 2, and you can catch up with those 2. And Brian's just a hell of a guy as well.
Absolutely.
And is Pipe Creeper still live?
It
right?
actually ended about 2 or 3 hours ago. So we can raise a glass for Frank, because Pipe Creepers number 2 funded about 2 hours ago, I think. So congrats, Frank.
Nice.
That is absolutely awesome. We had two that ended, and we took credit for everything from Frank for the last 2 weeks. So Melissa, you're really smart. We only get credit to you for an hour. So
Yeah.
and I do want to put up Joey. Joey's so much better than this. So Joey said when we were talking about marketing, on that note, listen soon to Explain Yourself with Kevin and Will on your favorite podcatcher, exclusively on the Geek Collective.
Nice radio voice.
Yeah. I thought maybe we should go sultry if this is a podcast.
Okay.
It is after midnight now.
It is. Now it's Explain Yourself After Dark.
Hey, Western USA Network, right?
That is it. Characters are welcome. Guys, thank you. It was an absolute blast. And whenever you've got, hey, you know what, George, if you do have one of your EPs coming out and you want to talk about it, I would love to deep dive into a different art form as well. I know very little about it except for turning it on and enjoying myself. But that would be a blast if you've got something you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be comics. It doesn't have to be crowdfunding, as long as you'll explain yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. I am talking the guys into maybe doing a small Kickstarter for the album, just because like music, like that whole like running to the store on release day, it's gone. So
Yeah.
how do you drum up, interest and energy about something that's just like, go to, Spotify, go to iTunes, like, so we might do something like that. And yeah, I would absolutely love to share, I mean, I fucking love this band. I love these guys. We've been doing it for 11 years. And, I'm curious to see what the music side of Kickstarter is like, after doing the comic side for 10 years.
Shawnee's with you, Melissa. Melissa's a trooper. She stuck around till the bitter day.
I know. I keep having so much fun with you all. I just can't tear myself away.
Well, I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid. It was our pleasure to have you both.
Yep.
And good night, you filthy animals.
Thank you so much.